I guess we'll get started. First of all, great crowd. Thank you all for fighting the weather. Obviously, I think we got a little lucky with the rain, and fortunately there are no windows, so you can't see your car getting buried right now. If you need help, we've got some folks to help chip your car out when we're done. But hopefully we'll be doing the event here, get you done and out between 12:30 and 1. So thanks for that. It's a pretty good turnout. We didn't have too many no-shows. A huge thank you to our testimonial premier customer, GuideStar, bringing the team in. You guys, coming in from different parts of the state, obviously, and speaking to VMware, vCloud, and the experience. That's why I think everybody comes out, is because of the customer participation. So, really appreciate that. And of course, VMware. The bulk of the presentation will be about vCloud and disaster recovery as a service. So, really interested to see that. I am personally, and hopefully. I see a lot of familiar faces. I know a lot of existing customers for probably multiple organizations here today, maybe some new ones, but you can take that information back to your organizations, and the 2 hours will be a good return on investment. The format is very similar to what we've done in the past. I know several of you have been to our luncheons before. It's a silent serve process. Hopefully everybody got their orders in. The server staff here is awesome. Obviously one of the reasons we picked Morton's for this particular event. If you need anything, there's 3 or 4 servers that are available that we kind of tug on a shirt sleeve. The facilities, if you haven't been here before, are in the corner of the restaurant. A little bit of a narrow long room, so I'm going to try and yell at you, which is probably more typical when I speak to you anyway. But for the rest of the presenters, let us know if you can't hear. And generally speaking, the format of these events, we try and be as interactive as you want us to be. So questions, answers, feedback, imperative. Really pretty straightforward as far as what we'll talk about. I've got a couple of minutes, and I don't want to bore you too much on Arcus Consultants. Mark will handle kind of the segues between the speakers. We basically have 2 speaking arrangements, and hopefully by the time we get wrapped up on that part of the discussion, we'll be sipping on coffee and eating cheesecake or chocolate mousse at that point. I haven't said it. My name is Ron Cathers. For those of you who don't know, I'm a co-founder and a partner at Arcus Consultants. When I was thinking about how do we talk about our message, our value this morning, much in kind of the spirit of GuideStar speak, and maybe the best way to do that is to talk about one of our existing customers, maybe a use case and a story. So if you can imagine yourself maybe a chief operating officer of a higher education institution based out of Virginia, looking for something scalable, robust for the future. In this case, half of these 30 locations were fiber built. They've also invited us back to evaluate data centers. They've invited us back to evaluate cloud for disaster recovery. So I'm looking at these familiar faces. There's at least 3 or 4 people who've gone through this process with us several times, and we appreciate the continued business. Of course, and look forward to seeing how that process was executed and what the thoughts of GuideStar are as we talk about vCloud and GuideStar's experience. So with that, I'll hand it over to Mark.
Yeah, thank you. Mark Williams. Kimberly Donaldson is going to be going through the presentation with us today from VMware. And a little bit of perspective, we as an Arcus have been looking at DR as a service for our clients going back to the very early days, back to 2009. And I remember having these types of kind of presentations where we would talk about the different offerings. So we've had a lot of experience kind of seeing the products and how they've changed or matured. And what we've seen up until this point, they're all kind of the same. And the way they're all kind of the same is DR as a service, disaster recovery as a service, is a service provider providing just that back to you as the client. So there's supposedly very little that you're doing from a customer standpoint other than saying, hey, I've had a disaster. I need to recover my data. I need to recover my operations. Right? VMware is different. And the way that it's different is it really transitions DR as a service back to the customer from an operational standpoint. So what we'll see, or at least what we've seen from kind of the differentiator standpoint is this is a technology that runs in probably 90%, if not 100% of the folks in this room's production environment. So it's something that's familiar, and it's something that the existing operational cost structure supports. And that's the interesting thing about it is it then extends to that DR environment, it extends to that DR cloud, so that once again, the customer is actually taking control of those RTOs and RPOs associated with DR, as opposed to relying on a service provider to provide that back to them as a service. So that's kind of the, from a technology standpoint, yes, it's very elegant, but from an operational standpoint, it is different in that, once again, it's not a turnkey, Mr. Service Provider, I've had a DR environment, I need you to set it up, I need you to seed it, I need you to replicate it, I need you to manage it turnkey, and if I ever have an issue, I'm going to call you and declare a disaster. This is really the technology for a customer to do that back to the organization. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Kimberly. Thank you, Kimberly.
Great. So hi, everyone. I'm Kimberly Donaldson. I'm the vCloud Air Specialist for VMware, supporting enterprise accounts in the Mid-Atlantic. And look forward to talking to you today about vCloud Air and specifically VR as a service. People know VMware as is virtualization company, and that was really our first act, so to speak. And where VMware has continued to innovate and drive our organization to support our customers like yourself is taking it to the next level in virtualizing the network, providing a software-defined data center across the board from virtual storage, hybrid cloud, and security as well, and then also into the mobile workspace. So there's a number of different areas that we continue to move into to support our customers as the industries continue to change. But today we're going to talk about cloud. We can move forward. So I just want to touch on and level set what we're seeing in the industry with cloud in general. When you, I'm not sure, how many of you are using some sort of cloud today, whether it's AWS or Salesforce.com, okay, Microsoft, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of public clouds out there, and what you start to see, I think, is the biggest challenge when you start to move to public cloud is that there's a incompatibility, so to speak, where customers are finding to move to public cloud that their cloud provider is on a different proprietary software, different than their vSphere-based technology. You have to recreate for applications. If you're moving to DR, you have to rewrite before you can migrate data over. You start to run into networking challenges. You've built out a rich topology from a network and security perspective of how you want to run things on premise, but then how does that equate when you move to the cloud? A lot of times in public cloud that changes. And then you have new management tools that you either have to learn or you have to hire someone that has experience with those tools. So with vCloud Air, which I'll get into in the next slide on how we're different, or what it is, vCloud Air is going to provide you the exact same technology foundation that you've built your on-premise environment on. So there's absolutely no changes from a networking, security, management, portability perspective, and it's all supported through VMware as you're on-premise today. Next slide, please. So vCloud Air, like I said, today we're going to focus on, if you can build that out, vCloud Air disaster recovery. But like I mentioned, what we've done over the past several years, we've been providing this service for about 2 years now. First, we started with really leveraging and gaining the experience of what our partners are doing by building out their service model to support our customers from an as a service perspective. And we've taken the advice from over 500,000 vSphere customers and our partners to develop a model that supports our customer and all of the points that I had in the previous slide, making sure that it's seamless and that you truly are just adding an extension of your data center. And the analogy I like to use is think of vCloud Air as another rack in your data center, but with a longer wire. You're running it exactly the same way. It's just you're leveraging the benefits of having that infrastructure as a service provided to you, so you don't have to maintain and manage the physical hardware from the hypervisor down. Next slide, please. So we have 3 offerings from infrastructure as a service today. There's plenty of other services that we do as well that we're not covering today. Database as a service, object storage, desktop as a service. So there's a number of different areas. But we're going to focus on the DR as a service, which is a multi-tenant environment that allows you to set up a warm standby as a service in our cloud and give you that ability to look at what workloads are in your environment today that either you don't have DR or would like to have a different type of DR. And then the other offerings are more specifically around compute, whether you want to do a dedicated cloud and a physically isolated model. That typically is more for your mission critical production applications that need to be in a compliant cloud, and then virtual private cloud, which is typically more ideal for dev test type workloads. Okay, so from a vCloud Air disaster recovery perspective, we do offer this in subscription-based model so that you have the ability to do 1, 3, 12, 24, 36-month subscriptions, and then you start with a base configuration, which is up here on the right-hand side. It's 20 gig of VRAM, 10 gigahertz of vCPU, and 1 terabyte of storage. That also includes 2 IP addresses and 10 megabits. And then you can continue to scale up in any of these increments to meet what workloads you want to support in a DR model. Feel free to ask questions along the way if you have any questions. All right, next slide. So what we're really hearing from our customers is that 24/7 is really becoming the norm, having your business up and running, but it's been traditionally not cost effective to go to a DR model. A lot of people are maybe doing backup to tape or backup to disk, but they don't have a true DR business continuity plan in place because it's been cost prohibitive with traditional models. Yet it is a high priority to be able to support their business and keep it online. If you can go to the next slide. So really we see 2 types of customers, and I'd be curious where you think you might fit into this. Either no DR in place today, and they're trying to find something that fits within their budget, or need to be able to have a better maintenance and management of the environment in a DR, or you have DR today, but either because it's been expensive or just not keeping up with the requirements that you need, you are looking for alternatives. Who would say that if you want to admit that you don't have any DR in place today, versus everybody has DR? Okay. Is that backup? How many would say they have backup versus? Okay. Quiet group. Nobody has backup? You're in trouble. Okay. All right. Next slide. So what we're hearing mainly from customers and why they're going to a as-a-service model is that they need something that's more simple to use and manage. They either do not have the recovery point objectives that they need. With backup, I have another customer that actually said it takes them, they have a colo that they've built out a DR site to have additional hardware in the event they have an outage. But they also then have to and they're backing up to tape. They said there's a three-day process to get the tape shipped back to them, and then they have to then rebuild on the infrastructure that's already there that they're paying to then also pay to have it co-located. So not only is it not meeting the recovery point objectives, which they want to get down to 24 hours, a lot of people are much more aggressive, but they said it's taking them over a week to be able to get things back up and running. It's just not sufficient. They want something that's more cost efficient, obviously, to that point. And then not have to maintain and support that environment. Next slide. So what is vCloud Air Disaster Recovery? So we are providing you as a service model where you have the ability using vSphere Replication Appliance. You're all vSphere customers today, which I imagine most of you are. You have the ability to download a free plugin that allows you to replicate your VMs that you want to protect through the same, and you manage this through the same interface you're using today, whether it's vCenter, vCenter Automation Center, it could be vCenter Operations Manager, any of the management tools today. Or it could just be a vSphere portal that you're using. Nothing changes in your environment. You choose those VMs you want to replicate, you replicate over, you determine which ones have different recovery point objectives, some more aggressive than others, and based on the bandwidth that you have into our cloud, you can get as aggressive as getting that RPO down to 15 minutes. That's 15 minutes of lost data, potentially, up to 24 hours, worst case scenario. Now with large environments, that initial seeding can be done through a offline data transfer. We ship you an encrypted NAS device, you load that up, ship it to us, we load it up, and you resync, back up, and ready to go. You also get, with that base resource that I showed you before, excuse me, you also get unlimited failover tests per year, as long as you have a 3-month or longer contract with us. You notify our operations center that you want to do some tests, they get that ready. You can run a failover in our environment. And some of the big differences between what we're providing from a DRaaS as a service as other providers out there is because, again, back to the whole thing, that we're running on the exact same technology and the underpinning foundation of vSphere. You have that confidence level that when you fail over, it's going to work because nothing's changed from the way you have your environment on premise. And then you also have the ability to fail back. So say that you need to run it in our environment up to 30 days is included of runtime from a failover perspective, but then you get your servers back up on-prem, you fail everything back over. So you have that capability. Any questions so far? Okay, really quiet group. All right. Next slide.
Quick question.
Yes.
When you say unlimited DR tests, is
Yes.
there any kind of check and balance as far as, because unlimited can be truly unlimited. Is it one a month?
It's unlimited, but there's 7-day test periods. So you can only run a failover for 7 days at a time. You want to run it, 28 times a month? No, 4 weeks times 7? Probably not. But most people want, most people with their DR plans today do twice a year.
I've heard 2 a year.
Yeah, but the nice thing is you can do it as often as you like, and you don't have the extra complexity of, like, if you're at a SunGuard, to have to send people on site, set everything up, and it takes, a good couple weeks to go through that process. So this is just a lot simpler, and again, it's all done through your vCenter or however you're managing your environment today from a vSphere perspective. So I did mention the failback. This is actually just added this month. So I mentioned, the failover. Now you can do the failback to your primary site. If you want to go to the next slide. We've also added point-in-time checkpoints or snapshots. So you can do up to 24 snapshots per VM. So you can get more granular and go back to a specific point in time of where you've potentially lost your data. So if you lose your data at midnight, you could scroll back to 11:55 p.m. and be able to recover that. Next slide. I don't know if any of you are using our orchestration tool. vRealize is the new name. There's been all sorts of new naming conventions, but we do have a plugin from an automation perspective to be able to go in, automate your tasks, and be able to tie into your workflows and how you want to integrate that back to your DR. Next slide. So some of the benefits, obviously there's quite a few of them by going to disaster recovery in our vCloud Air. You don't have to worry about hardware independence. When you build out a colo to be able to support a DR site, to keep the complexity down, it's ideal to have the exact same hardware to make sure it's going to be consistent from a recovery standpoint. You don't need to worry about that here. Obviously, from an integration perspective, there's nothing you need to do on your side to be able to integrate. That keeps your costs down. And like I said, that raises your confidence level that things are going to work from a failover perspective. And then from an application perspective, so when we replicate over the VM, we're replicating everything over. The OS, the application, any data that's tied to that VM is moved over. So your entire system can be protected in this model. Next slide. Another added benefit, and for any of you, those of you that raised your hand that you're using some other cloud providers just for infrastructure and as a service in general, you'll find that a lot of time you get nickel and dimed on adding a VPN, or you need another IP address, or the HA is not included. These are all things that are included as part of the base package. Now, if you need to add more of these thereafter, like IP addresses, you we just had an incident there, but you do add additional IP addresses. That's an extra charge, but the upfront, everything is included. Load balancers, the perimeter firewalls, HA. A lot of times, public cloud providers, if you want high availability, you can have it, but you're going to have to design the architecture to support it, which can get more expensive. And then the additional failover test is included. Let's go back real quick. So one thing I want to mention too that is included, if any of you are familiar with our NSX, which is our virtualized networking and security appliance that we acquired a company called Nicira within the past year. That is also integrated into our vCloud Air offering, meaning from a security, it adds another layer of security. What NSX does, and there's a number of benefits, but from a vCloud Air perspective, in addition to having perimeter firewalls around what you're doing in our public cloud, you can get down to micro-segmentation within the virtual data center. So that adds another layer of security, makes it a lot more difficult within the cloud itself or within the virtual data centers for people to be moving data around. Onboarding, I'll get into a little bit more specifically in the next slides. So we talked about what people are looking for. We do provide with vCloud Air DR as a service, the ability to maintain through a portal, very easy to set up, and I'm sure GuideStar will attest to this, but it's very easy to set up. We actually do have a customer success team that does the onboarding to walk you through the portal, help you get the VPN set up, but a lot of times our customers just find they get set up within a couple, couple minutes, and they really don't need much assistance, even though we offer it. So from a RPO perspective, I mentioned you have that ability to customize it based on what requirements you have for each application on the VMs that you're replicating. OpEx versus CapEx, you have that flexibility to move to a different model, and then leverage the existing tools you've already made investments in without losing that. Okay, next. I talked about this a little bit, but through the management portal, you are going to have visibility into what you're doing from a cloud perspective, so you're not losing any control. You have metrics on the performance within the cloud, VM creation, what you've replicated over, retention periods, that sort of thing. Next. And it's just another portal plugin, no cost to you to be able to download that, free plugin. Next slide. So where are we located? So I don't know if any of you have any global requirements, but in addition to having 7 locations in the US, we also have presence over in UK, Germany, Japan, Australia. The data centers we're in today, and we continue to grow that out. And if any of you have any requirements, yes?
Can you stick to a single data center where you know exactly where your data is and not be outside of the continental United States?
Yeah, very good question. And that is a key point. You actually, yes, you select the data center you want to be in, whereas some providers, they give you a region, but you don't know where your data actually lives. You actually do dictate where it is, and it stays in that data center. So if you have ITAR requirements that require you to be in the US, you pick that data center in New Jersey, wherever it needs to be, and that's where your data resides. But back to the compliance, and I'll go into the compliance on the next slide. We do have 2 what we call vCloud Air government service data centers today, one in Virginia, one in Arizona, that allows you, for those that have strict FISMA, FedRAMP type requirements, those are all certified. And part of the reason we met those requirements too all comes back to that the NSX capability I mentioned, by getting really granular on the security within the cloud itself, in addition to the perimeter. Next slide. And there we have our compliancy. So you have the government service on the right. All of our data centers are ISO 27001, SOC 1 and 2, Type 1 and 2 compliance. And then if any of you that are healthcare related, we are HIPAA and high-tech compliant. We also have just gotten our certification on PCI. We've been audited and we've passed. We just haven't received the actual certification yet, so we can't put it on the slide yet. But that is coming. All right. Next. Just a list of customers. I know we have a variety of industries here. We pretty much cover every industry out there, from financial services, education, healthcare, government. Next slide. And I just wanted to go back and highlight the role of the customer success team. So even though it is very easy to get set up and running and manage it yourself from a self-service perspective, we do assign a designated customer support person that is there, like I said, to walk you through the portal, can hold you through getting everything set up, VPNs, and just really be there from an advocate perspective if you have any questions in the future. Really a white glove service, which a lot of times is not included in many offerings. Next. And just to end on the support. Nothing changes from a support perspective. You're not dealing with any finger pointing of who's doing what. Everything is the same support that you get from a vSphere perspective on-prem or any VMware. to what you're doing in the cloud. Any other questions? I know you guys have your food in front of you now. Just a little bit like opposite. How many of you are looking at, I guess, DR as a service today as an option? Okay. 1, 2, maybe? Okay. All right. Well, we'd be happy to speak to you on how we can make your life a lot simpler, reduce the amount of risk, and be more cost effective in the way that you're doing it today. It sounds like everybody has DR in place today and they feel comfortable and happy with what they're paying. But in the event you're trying to make some changes, we can help you out. And I think that might be it. Mark. So,
Thank you, Kimberly.
Thanks, everyone.
So next up, you've got Joe Ferguson from GuideStar.
I've ever seen. You literally download a plugin, put a couple appliances on, set it up, you're ready to roll. It's that easy. You literally will right-click the machine, hit replicate, set up your RPO times, everything, ships it out there, you're good. If you need to clone it, they'll send you a box. You can get all your stuff in one big fail swoop, send it out there. Once it's out there, all you're doing is linking it back up. So it's a lot better than a lot of other places where you send something out there, there's really no way of getting it back. It's so familiar to you that it's just easy to use. You have everything that you're used to using. If you use VMware on a daily basis, you're in the management console. It's all the same. Nothing's different. It's very simple to use. We're a very small shop, so one person can set it up and use it. Very, ease of use. And we literally jumped on it way before it's gotten, where it is today. And Kimberly left this out. I don't know if anybody knows this, but 80% of VMware is literally engineers. That's it. 80%. When we first started in vCloud, maybe 10% of those engineers worked in vCloud. 40% of their company now does vCloud Air. 40%. That's half their engineers work in vCloud Air. And it changes rapidly on a daily basis. So you're talking things that you thought would be there will be there next week, or things that you need will change on the fly, and everything is just coming up very quickly. So if you have multiple sites you use vCloud Director, I don't know if anybody's ever used that before, it's literally the same plugin just out there in their cloud, in their data center. It's literally an extra wire. So it's a really big helping hand. They walk you through a lot of stuff. And where Arcus comes into play for us is helping us not forget the small things that you might forget when setting up, because something so easy comes into play and you go, wow, this is real simple. Oh man, what about this or what about that? They really help us play that out. They really help find out what needs to be, help you get that run book together, help you get everything together that's going to help you get this running smoothly and getting going and where it needs to be. So that's a big help. I know a lot of people probably have, DR now, you probably have a really long run book, you got to call somebody, you got to time somebody up. Our run book is literally like 2 pages, literally. Anybody can do it. You literally will right-click a machine, hit fail over. Or if it fails over, you call one person and they flip the switch and you're done. It's that simple. So I mean, a lot of it's very easy to use. It's very, I keep saying it's easy to use because it really is. It's so stupid simple. It's just insane. I can't get over how well made they've done it. And it keeps getting better every day. So like, if you want to add IPs, just go purchase another one. Everything's in the portal for you to buy on demand, whatever you want. And if you don't use DR as a service, you go back and you want to expand on that, you actually want to get into the cloud, you can buy that stuff right there and start it on the fly. You can do anything you want at your discretion. It's up to you. There's nobody there to call and bug and say, well, I want this or I want that. You can do it all yourself. So that's what's really great. You're bringing that responsibility back to yourself. You're not relying on somebody else. You're relying on what you know and how you do things and doing it the way that you want to do it. So, a little salesy here, pitchy, but either way, that's what it's about. Hopefully, if you haven't used it before, whatever, we had DR with somebody else. It was really expensive. This is a lot cheaper. When we first started, it wasn't unlimited tests. It was you got 2 tests. That's it. Literally 2 tests. And then, as time went on, they're like, oh, you test as much as you want now. All right. That's excellent. So, you could start something new, put it out there and go, well, does it work? I don't know. I only get 2 tests a year. Well, you can turn it on and test it right there on the spot. If somebody goes, well, let's test it right now. I want to see if it works. You can do that. You make the call. They set it up. You're done. 2 minutes, you can hit the button. It does not take long. It's very simple. Have somebody there all the time with you, walking you through. Arcus helps you do the same thing. They make sure that you have everything you need, get all the right people in place, get everything together, get it all started. And when you sign the paper, and a lot of times it's 30 days, whatever, get it set up. They'll set it up in like a day. They're like, oh, it's ready, it's up to you, go ahead, you're done. You're like, what? Oh, okay. Throw some appliances out there and you're finished. So it's a lot of going on, it's really easy to use, it's very simple, can't stress that enough, but let you get to your food.
Yeah. Great job. Thanks, Joe. Really appreciate you stepping up and sharing your thoughts. Joe mentioned something about the engineering resources, VMware vCloud specifically.